And we're going to break now to join the monthly press conference by the Prime Minister.
Year is off to a stellar start. I would like to welcome this morning members of the Federal Cabinet and the National Assembly, members of the Diplomatic Corps, permanent secretaries and other senior government officials, representatives of the media and other specially invited guests, as well as nationals and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis right here at home and living abroad. So good morning to you once again. Maybe we're off to a little rough start this morning, but thank you so much. This morning, the Prime Minister is hosting this press conference to update the country on matters of national interest, and it allows the media to pose questions to him, which he and the other members of cabinet will answer directly. He is supported by senior members of the government civil service who are also here to answer questions where they can. This event is being carried live on several radio stations who are our media partners, and I'm happy to announce that the media houses carrying this event live this morning are Freedom FM, Sugar City FM, Vaughan Radio, Win FM, ZIZ Radio, as well as the social media platforms of the St. Kitts and Nevis Information Service, also known as SKNIS, and our national media house, ZIZ, is not only carrying it live on radio and television, but as well as their YouTube and Facebook pages. The press conference is coming to you from the National Emergency Management Agency headquarters in Limekiln, also known as NEMA. Just a few announcements before we welcome the Prime Minister to make his opening presentation. I would like to let you know that the highly anticipated Leadership Matters program resumes next week, Tuesday. That is the 15th of February, and I've gotten a lot of questions about that, so I'm happy to let you know that Leadership Matters resumes next week, Tuesday, February 15th. Also, the handing over ceremony of the Petrocasas homes takes place on February 18th. That's also next week, and those homes will be handed over from the Venezuelan government. So to repeat, the handing over ceremony of the Petrocasas homes takes place on February 18th, and they are being handed over by the Venezuelan government. At this time, can we welcome the Prime Minister to the lectern to make his opening remarks? Mr. Prime Minister. While we await the arrival of the Prime Minister, who is just outside, who will be joining us shortly, allow me to let you know that if we will also be facilitating media houses who are not here today with us, who are not able to send a representative to the press conference. So I think it's important to note that we will be facilitating their questions and posing the questions to the Prime Minister on their behalf. It's very important that we try to accommodate as many media houses as possible, as this is an opportunity for them to get the questions that they require on behalf of their audiences. We know that they have a lot of programs and ways of engaging the public, and they would find out various issues of concern to the public, and so this is one of the ways in which they can get those issues addressed. So at this time, I would like to welcome the Prime Minister to make his opening remarks, followed by which he will take questions. Mr. Prime Minister.
Members of the media, cabinet, colleagues, I want to thank all for tuning in to this, the first of the series of monthly press conferences to be put on by the Office of the Prime Minister. This being the first, it is perhaps opportune that I should extend my very best wishes to all for 2022. I am privileged to address you in my capacity as Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, and in the context of our commitment to the good governance agenda, to inform you on several matters of state. I shall begin with updates on the implementation of our people-centered 2022 budget commitments, particularly in relation to our unprecedented third stimulus package, comprising, among other things, the extension of our income support to disadvantaged workers and persons unemployed on account of COVID-19, and the extension of the fuel support to passenger bus operators, and the inclusion of certified taxi owners as beneficiaries under this program. During 2021, my government provided income support to 3,053 persons for a total payout of $7.9 million. In addition, 109 persons benefited from the fuel subsidy program. The total payout to this program was $129,800. The Disability Support Program benefited 158 persons for a total payout of $486,500. That's a substantial payout to families with children and or other persons with disabilities. $486,500. The combined payout for these three programs was $8.58 million, and the total beneficiaries account for 3,320 persons benefited from the second stimulus package that we outlined last year. In 2022, the income support and fuel subsidy program are being extended for a further 3 months. The fuel subsidy is being expanded to include taxi operators who have a travel-approved seal. Presently, we are advised that there are 202 taxi and tour operators across the Twin Island Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis holding such a seal. Persons who applied last year for these programs under consideration need not reapply in 2022. The applications that were previously submitted are in the process of being reviewed to determine whether those persons now qualify. In other words, we have the information to do the necessary cross-checking. The criteria is well established, and the team that is put together is constantly reviewing the situation to make determinations whether any of the previous applicant continues to qualify for support. In fact, the first fuel subsidy payment for this year was made by the Treasury on February 3rd, 2022, and 104 bus owners who qualified had been paid. Again, we have the records last time. Unless you are new and there's a new situation, there's no need for any bus operators already in the system to reapply. Monday, February, persons, that is new applicants now wishing to apply for the income support or fuel subsidy may do so from Monday, February 14, 2020, by completing the relevant application form. I am advised by the Ministry of Finance that this form can be downloaded from the Ministry of Finance website at www.mof, as in Ministry of Finance short form, mof.gov.kn. I repeat, the site on which the form can be downloaded for any of these support programs, income subsidy or the fuel subsidy, is www, that is www.mof.gov, that is gov.kn. And this form can be accessed using the COVID-19 tab, and it will be available both in English and in Spanish. So we are all inclusive, and we are showing sensitivity and recognition to the fact that we have a growing Spanish community. Many of them are our citizens and permanent residents. Persons who applied last year need not reapply. The forms that were previously submitted are in the process of being reviewed for continued eligibility. Turning now to the issue of the safety and security of our nation, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis continue to enjoy a relatively high level of peace and security under the Team Unity administration. Indeed, we have seen a marked reduction in homicides, which have fallen dramatically from a record high of 35 in 2011 to a low of 10 in 2020. In 2021, the year just ended, we had 3 homicides more than in 2020. The police aims to reduce this figure to single digits in the near future through intelligence-led proactive policing and improved community policing. The successful build-out of programs in support of our Alternative Lifestyle Pathway program, the Explorers Club, and better utilization of resources such as our CCTV monitoring system and forensic lab will complement our efforts in sustaining reductions in major crimes. The detection rate for the Federation as a whole stood at 43% in 2021, which is an improvement over the 40% and 39.3% detection rate in 2019 and 2020, respectively. Indeed, I am advised by ACP Mitchell, our ACP for crime, that 2021, the overall detection rate of 43% represents the highest detection rate in our federation since 2000. So this is a significant achievement, and I want to commend Commissioner Brandy and his team for doing better at crime detection. I should say to you that among the various categories of crimes, the detection rate varies, some as high as 80%, some 54%, and some as low as 23%, creating the mixed bag over which the total of 43% has been derived. I want now to turn attention to the health sector, and I am pleased to report that in 2022 we shall commence the build-out of Phase 3 of the JNF General Hospital. This will be a significant investment of over $26 million, which will result in improvement in 12 service areas at our main hospital, including pathology, labs, a new psychiatric wing, a new central sterilization unit, central medical stores, kitchen, cafeteria, laundry, conference, and lecture halls. All these are contemplated as part of the overall budget of $26 million. This, of course, will take several months and perhaps will end up being a multi-year project, but it is significant that we shall start the phase build-out of Phase 3 in 2022. The addition of these brand new facilities, plus the recruitment of medical specialists identified in our budget for 2022. These specialists include cardiologists, and we are putting a heavy emphasis on that. Indeed, it is one of those NCDs, non-communicable diseases, that worry the Caribbean region and contribute significantly to deaths. And so we are going to set up a special wing, a special unit to deal with issues of what we call heart disease. So we are bringing in then a cardiologist. We will recruit cardiology technicians, cath lab nurses, cath lab technicians, and MRI technologists, just to name a few. I believe the combination of all of these, improvement in physical facility, addition of top quality human resources, would result in the enhancement in the quality of health care and improved conditions, not only for those who will go to our hospitals. Indeed, we would wish no one end up going there, but at least also for the workers. I present more good news from the health sector. And when I speak about no one going there, that all of us are well. So we don't have inpatients. That, of course, is an ideal situation, which will not happen. So we are preparing for the eventuality that in the normal course of things, persons will get sick. We want the minimal number of persons really at all times having to seek health care at our hospitals. That is why our primary health care must always be sustained and maintained, because prevention is always better than the cure. Consistent with our 2022 budget commitments outlined at paragraph 87 of my budget address, I am pleased to report that the cost of treatment of hemodialysis and oncology patients has been reduced by a significant 50% effective February 1st, 2022. In real terms, the cost of hemodialysis treatment has been reduced from $800 to $400 per session. This is a massive saving in any language. Those who are uninsured will benefit from a 50% reduction on the portion of the cost of the treatment not covered by insurance. In other words, this massive saving is really intended for the uninsured. We appreciate that some persons are financially vulnerable, may have insurance, but the insurance does not cover the full cost. And we are saying that on that portion of the cost not covered, the 50% will apply. Those who have no insurance at all You strictly move from $800 to $400 per session. I want to turn to some other capital projects in the health sector. First, the St. Peter's Health Center, a massive and important health facility that the Team Unity administration is making available for the people of St. Peter's and indeed to all of our citizens, because every health center is open to receive our citizens and residents. A cabinet committee led by the Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Sean Richards, and supported by a technical team drawn from health, finance, legal, and public works, is due to present recommendations on the way forward for the resumption of work on this important facility. And of course, we expect that in the near future, we will have work resumed there. With respect to the Bastia Health Center, I am advised that all of the background studies have been done, including the general scope of works to facilitate the design of a highly refurbished health center, offering improved quality care and services to the people of Bastia and the country at large. I could not end this positive news on our health sector without an update on our success in the battle with COVID-19. St. Kitts and Nevis has one of the highest vaccination and the lowest death rates among its peers in the hemisphere. As of Wednesday, February 9th, 2022, 82.3% of the adults had their first dose, and 76.9% are fully vaccinated. Between the two islands making up the Federation, we have St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Kitts with the higher vaccination rate. That is about 87%, and the CMO should advise and correct if there's a need. 87% of the adults in St. Kitts are vaccinated and just about have had their first dose, and 69+% of those on the island of Nevis would have had their first dose. So there is a gap in terms of the vaccination rates inter-islands. And similarly, when we look at those fully vaccinated, the gap continues there. So we would want to close the gap and have, of course, our overall vaccination rate improve. And so we want to encourage not just those in Nevis where there is a substantial gap, but even more persons in St. Kitts to come forward and to be vaccinated. The high level of vaccination coverage is allowing us to remove restrictions. We are also relying on persons to exercise good judgment in protecting themselves and their families from COVID-19. There is only so much the state can do to protect individuals from their own devices, from their own selves. And we try hard through our NEOC briefing and other public education interventions to alert people, educate and inform, and to provide them the facts regarding COVID-19 and other dangers which they may face. We believe that after 2 years of doing so successfully, it is now time for our people to put into practice what they would have been advised and taught and guided to do over the last 2 years. Even as I speak now, I think the country is fairly comfortable that we are overcoming the fourth wave of the pandemic, and certainly we would have hoped that we would not have had to get into the situation of a fourth wave of the pandemic and the nigh 3,000 cases that have been added as a result of this particular fourth wave. What is important, thanks again to the hard work of our health professionals and the discipline of many, we are seeing a reduction. The new cases have been significantly reduced. And in that regard, I think in respect to this particular wave, over the last 7 days or so, St. Kitts have had one of the more significant reduction in the rate of the COVID-19 virus spreading in the community. And that is in a comparative basis when we look at the data across the currency union. On the advice of our health experts and the National Task Force, the Cabinet has recently, in fact just today, approved the recommendation to relax restrictions on mass events that affect entertainment and the sporting communities. And we shall do so as of this Saturday, February 12th. In other words, we have removed restrictions on mass events related or being organized by the entertainment and sporting communities as of Saturday the 12th. We urge everyone to be responsible and, of course, to comply with any direction of the police. We make the point that notwithstanding the relaxation of restrictions, residual authority always, I repeat, always resides with the police or remains with the police, and any event started could be stopped at any time on the intervention of the police in accordance, of course, with the law. So I just want to warn people, it is not now a free-for-all, we could do anything everywhere. We know in normal times, if we are going to have an event, we have to seek the permission of the police. That will still be required. That will still be required. And those who are careful enough to have read police permission, whether it is for a dance, a picnic, or whatever, will say at any time, this permission can be withdrawn. That is why sometimes you have a fete and the police comes and persons say, we had permission. If you are being unruly, if you are not behaving in a manner that is circumspect, taking all the circumstances into account, please be advised that the police is authorized by law to bring any event to an end or to suspend them. But again, we have relaxed, and therefore any denial of mass events that would have taken place and are to occur on or after the 12th will be reviewed by the Commissioner of Police in the context of the new mandate that has been given by the Cabinet. I want to place and record the country's highest commendation to our National Task Force and Health Team for the work they have done and the work that they will continue to do in the foreseeable future. I want to also remind our citizens and residents that the most powerful tools that we have in this battle against COVID-19 still remain vaccination, and abiding by the non-pharmaceutical measures, wearing your mask, observing social distancing, and doing all those things that you ought reasonably to do to protect yourselves. So if you see a crowd of persons and you are concerned, don't join the crowd because you are concerned. The decisions now have to be yours. If you are at a fete and the fete is going out of control, excuse yourself. The decision now has to be yours. So again, we are an intelligent people, high literacy. Let us reflect itself in how we govern ourselves as we move out of the shadow of COVID-19. COVID-19, of course, has destabilized everywhere. Large countries, small countries, they have been no exception. COVID-19 has cost much. You would recall that our first stimulus package was estimated to run us in over $120 million of unbudgeted expenditure. You would recall that our second stimulus package was anticipated to have cost us about $15 million. We have not yet worked the tab in relation to the third stimulus package. But we know that it has been a burden. We have had to spend, for example, $25 million in additional expenditures to the health sector alone. New ambulances, pharmaceutical products, and other materials necessary to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. We have felt the impact on our economy as thousands of persons were unemployed. Thankfully, over time, as we open up, more persons in agriculture, in manufacturing, and now tourism have been able to earn a living. The consequence of COVID and the currency union has been an average of about 16% reduction, loss of GDP in the region of which we are part. Of course, it varies among and between countries. Some have lost as high as 20+% of their economic activity as a result of COVID-19. So it is a serious matter, started essentially as a health crisis and then morphed into a broader economic and societal crisis. Smallest country in the hemisphere, we have done very well to be where we are now. And we give God thanks. Thankfully, we are able to note and experience the fact that our country now is stable, and clearly there are signs that our St. Kitts and Nevis is getting back on track. In this regard, I want to pay some attention to some recent data regarding the performance of some of the critical sectors. I want first to turn to the agricultural sector, because food security remains an important challenge, and it is one which we have to endeavor to take on board in our policy planning going forward. During the period January to December 2021, crop and livestock combined recorded a significant 21% increase in production. That is, production of food here moved from 2.92 million pounds in 2021 compared to 2.4 million pounds in 2020. This resulted in this significant increase of 22% in the estimated dollar value of these produce, which moved from 9.55 million in 2020 to almost 11.68 million in 2021. So both in terms of actual physical output and market value, which is another important indicator, we have seen in excess of 20% increase in the performance of the agricultural sector. And we remain optimistic that this sector will grow even more in 2022, based again on the policies that we have put in place, based again on the strong support which our stimulus package provided over the last 2 years, and the new policy frame in which agriculture is taking place, based on the commitments we have made to revive the Bayford's farm, provided and strengthening our livestock sector, and providing, as it were, an academy of sort for practicing farmers to be able to see agriculture as its best. And in agriculture there we were referring to the crops and livestock. Agriculture, though, using the typical definition of FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, also extend to the fisheries sector. And I want to turn to that. Our fisheries sector is back on track. The data from the director of our Marine Resource Department reveal that there has been a significant increase in fisheries products in 2021, the year just ended, compared to the preceding year. Specifically, fish landings increased from 671,000 pounds in 2020 to 760,020 pounds, with a market value of some $8.4 million in 2021. The major increases were realized among the following fishery types. Conchs increased 30% in 2021. Lobster, 148%. Reef and demersal species recorded a 7% increase in 2021, leading to the overall expansion of the fisheries sector in double digits. So again, we are very pleased by what we see happening here. Significant improvement. And yes, there are some deficiencies which have to be addressed in response to some reductions in other categories, such as near-reef fishing and coastal fisheries. And I'm advised by the director that they are addressing that particular challenge through training and by the supply of additional materials, fads, and other materials to our fisher folks. I was pleasantly surprised to have learned that we have over 1,200 fishermen and women registered and on record. There has been a significant growth of the number of participants in fishing since the start of the COVID-19. And so we are able to get a lot more local fishes available. We want this trend to continue. And based on the performance 2020-2021, we think we are heading in the right direction. The first quarter results, of course, would provide some confirmatory evidence as to this positive direction. let me commend the Permanent Secretary in Agriculture, Mr. Ron Collins, and the heads of the department in Agriculture, Dr. Tracy Challenger, and of course, Dr. Mark Williams, who leads the fisheries subsector for this, I would say, excellent performance to date. I want to thank the Permanent Secretary for getting the deliverables, for getting the output, for getting us attuned to better ways in which we can feed ourselves and reduce the tendency and the vulnerability to turn outward to feed ourselves. Turning attention now to the manufacturing sector. Most of the workers in the manufacturing sector are now back on their job. Indeed, more persons were working in the sector in 2021 than in 2020. And this is a good sign of the recovery of the sector on the way. It is to the credit of the high performance of our workers in our export manufacturing enclave and the other sectors of the manufacturing plant that in spite of great competition globally, and in particular from China, that we continue to lead the OECS in the export of merchandise to the USA. Of course, our merchandise not only go to the USA, but they go to Europe. That speaks to the quality of work that is being done in our industrial estates, at the industrial site in Barstow, and of course in Sandy Point. Let us not take the contribution, the skills, and the performance of our workers in these factories for granted. We are not competing on the cost of labor. For St. Kitts and Nevis has the highest minimum wage in the OECS, and I suspect by extension in CARICOM. The competition is on things such as the skill, the efficiency, and the productivity of our workforce here. China, of course, will outdo us any day in terms of the wage they pay. So we are competing in a highly competitive international market, and we are doing well in this regard. Factories such as API, Harrow Server St. Kitts Limited, Cajola Limited, Jaro Electronics, they continue to penetrate external markets with their quality electronic products in the main. We are expecting in 2022 to see expansion at Cajola Cristada Limited and Jaro. Our Carib Brewery has also successfully penetrated several markets in the region and is making progress with significant renovations and expansions at its plant. The broad manufacturing sector, that is the local manufacturing arm, our bakers and our agri-processors, if you will, and the export manufacturing enclave to which I made reference, this broad brush of the manufacturing sector is contributing over 1,300 jobs in our federation. This means that in 2021, we had an additional, just under 100 additional persons working in manufacturing and helping to support their families. Whenever more persons get out to work, it is a good thing for family life, and it is a good thing for our country. So this is good news 1,316 jobs, preliminary figures from Social Security, were employed in the manufacturing sector of St. Kitts and Nevis. We expect in 2022 to see even higher employment in the export enclave manufacturing sector as a result of innovation and new lines and products being added in our manufacturing plants. This is good news, and it is a positive sign that our manufacturing sector is surely getting back on track, slowly but surely. And as a sign of its confidence in the direction of our country, Carrie Brewery continues its construction work, having completed the rebuilding of its administrative offices and lab at a cost of $2.3 million. I'm advised that production capacity has been expanded at our Carrie Brewery with the installation last week of another 450 hectoliter bright beer vessel tank. In 2022, the Carrie Brewery intends to exceed for a third year in a row the 1 million threshold of 1.2 million cases of brewery products, with 1.2 million cases of brewery products. We recall recently that we had the good news maybe 3 years ago when they had first, in a very long time, attained the 1 million production mark of brewery products. They were able to repeat that last year, notwithstanding we were still heavily in the throes of COVID-19. And this year, they're hoping that at least they will reach 1.2, that is 1,200,000 cases of brewery products. And I wish them well in that regard. In the second quarter of 2022, the brewery will be installing and commissioning a new case packer, and it will invest a further $1.2 million in expanding its full product warehouse. In 2022, the brewery will be introducing 4 new products. I hope that their market reception will exceed and surpass their own expectations, because the introduction of these new products will require new people, more people at work, more people earning. Good news for our country. On Monday this week, our Minister of Labor provided an update on the prospects for further expansion in the manufacturing sector, including the contribution or the development of new products at Cajola Cristada Limited. When these things happen, it means that the entities are adjusting to market needs, and hopefully as a result of this, their sales will grow, their production demand will increase, resulting in a requirement for more persons to be at work. Tourism, the rebound of the tourism sector is quite evident. We see it regularly as we look seaside in Basti at Port Sante. While not yet close to the buoyancy of 2018-2019, the 2021-2022 cruise season. The cruise seasons typically would start in October and carry on to September the next year. Is that so, Madam Pierce of Tourism? You have a lag in between there. You have a peak and a lull, yes. But this season, 2021-2022, is off to an encouraging start in the context of our lived reality with COVID and the restrictions placed on cruise travel, both by the Centers of Disease Control in the USA and, of course, other government to protect their citizens. I'm advised that we have had 158 cruise calls so far, with 138,022 cruise passengers. This compares well to the prior season, 2020-2021, when for 9 months, October 2020 to June 2021, there was 0 cruise calls and consequently 0 passengers. Given the COVID-19 situation, the cruise ships are not sailing at their usual maximum capacity as a precautionary health response. Turning to year arrivals, for January 22, I'm advised that we have had 6,683 passengers arriving in the Federation, and this is up 5,324 over the passengers arriving in the Federation, and this is up 5,324 over the passengers arriving in the Federation, and this is up 5,324 over the passengers arriving in the Federation, and this is up 5,324 over the passengers arriving in the Federation, and this is up 5,324 over the passengers arriving in the Federation, and this is up 5,324 over the passengers arriving in the Federation, and this is up 5